Welcome everyone to the DJ Bit. This is another edition of the DJ Bit. Let me not reduce my microphone. Let me reduce the audio here. So welcome. Another edition of the DJ Bit. Thank you for joining me on my channel. Please like, share, and subscribe if you like the videos that I post. Okay, so I did something. I went out and I bought the S11. Yes, I bought the S11. I bought the Pioneer DJM-S11. And from all of you that have been watching my videos and were watching the video on the NS7 III, this is kind of a addendum to that video, you know, to talk about my thoughts and considerations on buying the S11. So let's get into it. Let's get to the video here, and we'll talk about it. So well, there it is, guys. This is the DJM-S11 I just bought, and the PLX 1000s that I bought over, I think now 2 years ago. And but I did it. I bought the S11, and this is my new rig that I will be performing on. This, of course, is my old rig, my Technique 1200s. And my Mixars Duo, and of course on the Technique 1200s I got my Dicers, and I've got my DDJ SP1. So this has been my rig for a long time now. The turntables over 30 years, the Mixars Duo over 15 years maybe. The DDJ SP1 I got a few years ago to add to the system so I could perform certain functions, and this is what I used to perform everything on before I got the new setup. And now that I've got the new setup, I've got a few things I want to talk about. So let's get ready for the video. So yeah, this is I bought the S11, and I'm kind of have mixed feelings about buying it. I have some mixed feelings. I'm sure it's gonna get better. I'm sure I'm gonna really like it once I start getting used to it, getting used to the layout, getting used to, you know, all the features on it, and maybe finding new ways to use it. I watch a lot of other DJs, and everyone that has an S11, you know, does amazing, outstanding performances on it. So, you know, I can't say that it won't serve me well. I just, right now, I still kind of have buyer's remorse from it, if I'm being honest. I'm so used to the gear that I had, or that I still have it, but I was so used to it, like that, you know, I have to learn something new. But let's get to the guts of the video. So here's my old rig, you know. Here's my old stuff. My Mixars Duo, my DDJ SP1, the Novation Dicers. And there was a lot that I was able to do with all of that. And quite honestly, there was just really like one feature that I didn't have that I wanted, that I felt that the S11 would give me. And that's post-crossfader effects. So on the Mixars in the front, I'll just tell you real quick. On the front, I used to have to switch the line levels, the up and down faders, and I used to reverse them. And then I would apply my effect, and I would use the up and down crossfaders, the up and down faders as a crossfader. and it was kind of natural. The movement on my hand was very natural, but it was cumbersome. It was cumbersome to get into that mode. So to switch the reverse curve, reverse the fader, then make sure that the fader was in the right position so that the music didn't stop, and then go in and add the effect and start cutting up, and then reverse it back so that I could continue playing. It was kind of cumbersome, and I really wanted to fix that problem. It's not something I do a lot, and I don't do it a lot because of that reason. So I just wanted to fix it. In any case, I bought the S11, and the S11 does have that feature. It has post crossfader effects. But in reality, like, everything that I had was just as good. It's like I'm saying about the NS7 III. You know, I haven't replaced the NS7 III with like a Rev 7. You know, and it's because I'm so used to how I perform on the NS7 III, and now the same thing is happening with my turntable setup. So let me get into what considerations I had with buying the S11. All right. So my first consideration for buying the S11 was I wanted to reduce my accessories. You know, I felt like, okay, if I buy the S11, I will be more apt to take out my turntable rig on weddings, you know, than I was before, because there's a lot less to hook up. You know, it takes a lot less time. You know, when you're doing a wedding, sometimes you only have like 45 minutes to get your equipment in, set up, and all that. Because in some venues, I'm sure, you know, a lot of you professional DJs have seen this, where there might be an event before the wedding that you're about to do, and you have a really, really small time slot to get in and out. So, you know, you have to reduce your setup time. Well, I didn't want to take all these accessories, have to plug it all in, be all sweaty, then change, then, you know, get back in my mode. So that's a lot of the reason why I use the NS7. So I figured if I buy the DJM-S11, I'll reduce that setup time. So that was one of the things I considered, because I do want to take turntables with me on gigs. You know, it's so much fun, and I see all these guys doing it, and it's a lot of fun. And I just feel like on the NS7, I'm missing something. But, you know, all the NS7 works just fine. In any case, the next thing that I considered was minimize the gear look. I didn't know how to say that better, but basically I wanted to streamline what the gear looks like. It's a fancy way of saying that. My NS7 is very streamlined. You know, I don't have all these extra accessories on it, and it looks very sleek. And I figured if I got the S11 and I didn't have all those accessories, that it would look sleeker. And it does. It does. It opens up the entire face of my equipment. I don't have this thing hanging over it and blocking certain elements of my mixer. It's very sleek, and I like that. So that was another thing I wanted to do. So mission accomplished there. Third, I wanted to take advantage of some features. So, you know, there are features on the S11 that the primary feature was the crossfader effect, if I'm being honest. You know, the crossfader effect was like a huge sell for me. Everything else is about the same. It's about the same. Let me get my ugly face out of that. Another consideration I had was I wanted to learn the battle mixer layout. So, you know, everyone who's on turntables is using a battle mixer. They're using the S11 or the S7 or an S9 or the reloop versions of those mixers, which are very similar in layout with the pads. You know, and I'm going to encounter that in the wild at some point. I'm definitely going to encounter that. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to make sure that if I did encounter in the wild, I wouldn't be completely lost. Not that I would fully be lost, because I mean I do use pad modes and I do use pads, and the paddles seem you know, they're easy to use. All of it is easy to use, but I wanted to learn the layout better so that I could mix better and be more fluid if I ever encountered it. So let's say, for instance, I'm somewhere and someone has a Rev 7. I could easily jump on the Rev 7 because the layout of the mixer is the same. If I ended up at a club and I was just bringing my laptop and they had a turntable set up already and the S11 was there, or an S7 or an S9, I could easily just go into that and perform as well as I do with my old rig. So I did it for the, you know, I bought it because I want to learn the battle mixer layouts, the current layouts that are available to everyone. So that was one of the reasons I did it. And then, do I have another one? No, I think that was it. That was the, those were the considerations when I bought the S11. So my thoughts so far, let's get into my thoughts so far on this. I'm learning it all over again. That is the biggest thing that I can tell you, is that learning my routines on the S11, it's going to take some time for me to get comfortable, for my hands to have that muscle memory to go into certain parameters and functions and be quick enough to go from function to function without messing up my mixes and without losing my timing. And if I'm being honest, it's kind of it's kind of a struggle right at the moment. You know, I'm so used to having all the distinct features from my old system that I can work with at the same time. I'll give you an example, and I don't know if I have this any further in my video, so let me just go through and take a quick look at what I'm gonna talk about next. Let's talk about the old tech advantages, because this is going to explain what I'm talking about. I'll get through it as we go along with the video. So my old tech advantages. Oh, that's great. I didn't even put that says old tech advantages. I didn't make my text readable there. So, but let's continue. Nothing's perfect. Listen, I've got all this these new things sitting around me right now. I have a new desk. So I just recently bought a standing desk, and I know that shouldn't change anything, but my presentation laptop is on the opposite side. And I know I'm complaining right now. This is me bitching right now, but everything is like awkward to me. Everything's on the opposite side. I've got a new camera, and that's why I haven't released a video. But anyway, so I tried to make this video because I wanted to make it as quick as possible so I could put another video out there for you guys. So let's get back to the video. I just wanted to kind of point that out. That's why I'm like all over the place. All right, so the old tech advantages. I'm used to it. That is a major plus, man. When you are used to your DJ gear, it is awesome. It's amazing because you know exactly where to go. You know what you want to do. And even if you think of something on the fly, which I often do, I know what it takes to perform it using my old gear. So this goes back to the NS7. This goes back to my old turntable rig. You know, I'm used to it. I can do anything. I can do anything that anyone can do on new equipment. So I'm used to it. So I got to learn stuff all over again. All right. Next thing, the ability to combine mix functions. So this is what I was going to talk about when I was rambling on earlier. I use several mix functions at the same time, and I need my pads to be engaged in those parameters so that I can use those mix functions without sacrificing elements of my mix. Okay, now that was a lot to say. That was a lot to say to tell you that I hit two things at once, you know, and sometimes not only going to two things at once, but also engaging effects at the same time. And I have that flexibility with that old gear. I'll give you a case in point. Using stems, okay, you have 8 pad modes or 8 pads that you can use on stems. And the top 4 engage and disengage the parameters for like the vocals, the bass, the drums, all that. They engage them flatly. So you turn it on, you turn it off. No effect behind it. The bottom 4 pads engage effects. So if you use the bottom left pad that's under the vocals, right, it will echo out the vocals. And the third pad in will give you a break. It'll do a turntable like break and stop all of the music. And I use that feature in conjunction with a cue. So sometimes I will do a drop where I hit that break and keep the vocals going, but then I trigger a cue at the same time. And that is a little more difficult to do on the S11 because I only have the set of pads that I can engage at any given time. Okay? And there are ways around it, but which I'm trying to figure out. But that is something huge for me because I have built a lot of my mixes and routines around being able to do that. So going back to the NS7 real quick, the NS7, remember I talked about the NS7 III still having cue pads along the sides of the platters while still giving me the ability to use the pads in whatever pad mode I wanted. So I could set up the pads to be stem controls, giving me function of all 8 stem controls, and still hit my cues. So I could still do that double effect at the same time. Well, on the S11, I can't do that because if I'm and I'm talking about one track, one channel. I could do all of that on one channel, whereas in the S11, I don't have another cue button that I can use and still kill the stems at the same time. I can't do it. Like, I need another accessory to do it, so kind of defeats the purpose. You know what I mean? And it's a cool thing that I do. I do that all the time, and it just sounds so cool. So anyway, combining effects, that's what I can do with my old tech. Let's go to the next thing, the logical layout for devices. So let me talk about that for a second really quickly. The logical layout for devices, I have set my DDJ-SP1 and my Dicers in such a way that it's logical, at least to me. Okay, so my DDJ-SP1 triggers my effects. I primarily use my effects coming from the DDJ-SP1 because I can trigger all 3. It uses the Serato effects. It's not on board or anything, but I can trigger 3 effects at the same time. Not something I do all the time, but sometimes I'll engage a reverb with an echo, and that's part of what I do mixing wise. But I have total control of my effects on the DDJ-SP1. I typically will use the DDJ-SP1 as my stems controller. It's pretty much always set to stems. I don't really go between pad modes on the DDJ-SP1. It just makes it very easy. It's always available, and I can trigger them whenever. My pad mode on the Mixars Duo, always set to Q. Virtually always will be set to Q. And I will occasionally use them to trigger my samples. Actually, that is what triggers my samples. I use them all the time for my samples. But it's samples and Qs. So I've got stems on top, stems effects, the pads on the Mixars Duo that give me Q access and sampler access. And I can toggle back and forth between those two very quickly, very easily. And then the slicers, I have set up the slicers for, I've customized them. So they now, on the primary button, they do auto Q, silent Q. They can change my transport mode. So I can change it from relative to internal. And then it gives me my transport control buttons like play, Q, all of that on the first menu, okay? And then on the second menu, I use the center button as a shift, and then I can engage samples, or not samples, loops. So if I've created loops in any of my tracks and my songs that I'm loading, I can engage a saved loop by holding that center key and then hitting this, sequential button to hit whatever loop I want. So if it's loop 1, it's the shift and the button, shift and the second button, shift and the third button, so on. So, and I'll occasionally have loops saved that I can trigger, and I can do that and not have to worry about jumping back and forth between pad modes, because I still have my Qs available and I still have stems available. So I can trigger that loop, drop some stems, hit the Qs at the same time. I can do all of that without jumping through menus on a system where it's all contained. Do you get what I'm saying? So that's something that I do, and that's an advantage for me. That's a real big advantage for me. The next thing is recovered its cost. So what that essentially means is that system has paid for itself. It's been paid off for years. It's been paid off for nearly decades, and by paid off, I mean that I don't just mean like, not like, financing an S11 or anything. Like, I don't mean actually paying it back like I owed money on it. No, what I mean is that I've earned enough as a DJ to replace the cost of that system 10, 20 times. More than that. 30, 40, 50, 100 times. It's easily paid for. So because it's recovered its cost and it's so functional, the question becomes, then why buy new gear? Why buy something new? And this is what I struggle with all the time. I struggle with this. And that's why I talked about it in the NS73 video. All right, so let's get to the next item here. And I see on the bottom of the video, like I said, this is kind of a messy video, but on the bottom, if you can read it, it says performs well, maybe better. And, that's true. That's absolutely true. My old tech performs as well or maybe better. I'm faster on it. I'm super fast. I have all the buttons are available to me. So it's really a matter of that preference, Okay, so now the disadvantages. Let's go with the disadvantages of the old tech. Too many things to hook up. I talked about that earlier. It's way too many things to bring with me, set up, because you're not just talking about connecting the cables. And I know this is a first world problem issue. You know, when I was freaking 20, 17 years old, I wouldn't have given a shit what I brought with me. I would have thought it was cool. I wouldn't have cared. And for the most part, I still kind of don't. But like I said, in a professional environment, if there's too many things to hook up, you're taking time away from, you know, preparing for the event, getting things ready in a banquet hall. So those are things you got to think of. So there are too many things to hook up with my old turntable system. And so I wanted to reduce that. And then no post crossfader effects. So once again, like I said before, the post crossfader, for me to be able to do mixes with post crossfader effects, I would have to switch, you know, the line level faders and do all that stuff. So that was pretty much like the worst part of it all. And that really honestly are the main disadvantages that I could come up with. I tried really hard. I tried thinking about the disadvantages of my old gear. Because I did. I sat for a long time and thought about it. Like, what are the disadvantages of this old gear? And that was really the only two I could come up with. Honestly, I couldn't. And this is why I say it's so important to think about what you're buying when you're buying something new. Because if I could find like 5 disadvantages, I would have, you know, I would feel better. But I didn't find those disadvantages. So let me get back to the video here. And so what are we talking about next here? All right, so I'm going to bring you into the new tech advantages, okay? So once again, I apologize. The N is not visible on this screen because I was editing this PowerPoint right up until the minute I started recording, and I just wanted to get my video out there. So excuse the crudity of this video today. Excuse, you know, the messiness. But anyway, let's talk about the new tech advantages. The layout is centered. Okay, that is kind of a nice thing, is that everything, that all the buttons that I'm pushing, everything that I'm working on is totally centered. Everything is right in the middle. I can trigger effects. I can, you know, my hands aren't floating around all over the place. I'm not trying to trigger a dicer and then going up on top and doing something on top and then coming down to the bottom. You know, like I'm just, my hands aren't all over the place. And to some degree, that does give me an advantage, you know. So if I'm preparing for a scratch, or if I'm, you know, queuing up tracks, or I'm doing something, my hands are kind of centered. It makes it's a word I'm looking for. I know there's a word for that. It's it'll come to me later, but it's economical. That's the thing. It's physically economical. Like it's easy to move your hands around. So that is an advantage of this new gear. Post fader effects. I did get the post fader effects, and I'm not sure how I feel about them yet. I haven't set up my scratch bank completely, and I have toyed around with the post crossfader effects that come natively with the S11. That's remain, you know, it's remain to be seen, remain to be talked about, but I have them now. So, and the third thing is the onboard screen on the S11. I do like the screen. There are a couple of things that I will say about it. It's just, for me, it's a feature that really doesn't have a purpose. If I'm being honest, if I'm being super honest, the screen has no purpose, because the display is a little choppy to begin with, and it doesn't have the certain functions or certain features on it that help with your mix. If you know what I mean. Like when I look on the screen on Serato, I can see how well my tracks are synced up. Now, that is just a feature that I like, you know what I mean? Because it gives me a quick glance. I can see if I'm off track before I start hearing it. I can see if it's starting to slow down before you hear it. So, you know, it's a feature. It's a nice feature. I can mix by ear. I'm not saying I can't mix by ear, but the new onboard screen on the S11 really doesn't provide that level of functionality, so it really doesn't do much. And then in the, you know, going through the pads, and or not the pads, but the touch screen display, it's not something I can see myself doing in the middle of an event. I don't really feel like it's gonna be that great, but it is an advantage because it's something that I like the way it looks. Okay, I like it, but let's just say that. And then fourth are the onboard effects. I love that the S11 has onboard effects. Everyone that has ever talked about the onboard effects is absolutely correct. The effects are much better than Serato. The onboard effects are spot on. They sound better. They're more fluid. And on top of that, you can use real vinyl and still have your onboard effects. So I like that too. I like the ability to do that, you know, so that's really something I didn't have before. So I do like that. And then let's see what else. Is there anything else? And at the bottom, if you can see it, is the effects paddles. I kind of wanted to learn how to use effects paddles because I think it's cool. I see other DJs using the effects paddles, and it looks like a blast. And quite honestly, I am finding new techniques that I am using with the effects paddles that sound pretty amazing. So, you know, I may be giving up some things on the old tech, but some of the new things I'll be able to do on this new tech is going to be, it's probably going to be worth it. And once I get used to it, I'll probably be a lot happier. All right, so let's talk about the disadvantages of the S11 and buying this new gear. All right, so the first disadvantage, why would you start there? Okay, so I guess I'm going to go backwards on this, or it'll be jumbled, one of the two. So the disadvantages, 4, is the screen is not as useful as I thought. And I already just said, I just said all that, so I won't continue to repeat that. So number 1 is cost. Okay, cost. The thing is $2,000. Now, granted, I did get it for a reduced price, which is another reason why I bought it, is that it's on sale. It was on sale during the month of February, and it only cost me $1,700. So I felt better about buying it because it wasn't at the $2,100 price, the $2,099 price. So I kind of gave myself permission to just say, hell with it, buy it. It's cheap. It's not going to be that cheap again. But here was the issue that I had when buying it at $1,700, okay, is that I kept thinking they're going to come up with something new, because the S11 is now 5 years old. It was released like 2020, 2021, something. But I was thinking, all right, are they dropping the price to get rid of inventory so that they can sell a brand new one that has maybe a few more features that will give me the flexibility from the system I'm leaving behind? I don't know. But that was one of the things that I considered was cost was a disadvantage, because I already own the gear, and but I did pay less. Another disadvantage is it's hard to combine mix functions. Okay, now I explained that earlier. The mix functions, like having access to stems and cues at the same time. I do know that I can program the pads so that I can split the pads up so that I can have cues on the top row and maybe stem buttons on the bottom. However, I have to decide, which pad mode I want. So remember, on the stems, you can either, it's just a flat cutout of the stem or an effect cutout of the stem. You know, like a vinyl break, or, you know, a reverb effect, not a reverb effect, echo effect. So I have to choose like which one I want to do on those custom pad modes. Can I do it? Yeah, I can do it. Not as functional. So it is still kind of a disadvantage. All right, and then lastly, from what I see here, is I have to learn the layout. You know, and learning the layout is gonna be fairly easy, I think. You know, it's just a matter of getting used to something. I try to be hardware agnostic. You know, that's why I keep a lot of my old gear. I keep all of my old gear, but I mix on all my old gear so that I kind of keep that muscle memory of all the different ways that I have to use the equipment. And so this is one more thing that I'm gonna learn, so that when I perform, I'm not kind of like scrambling or scratching my head, or, you know how you accidentally trigger an effect, or you accidentally hit a button and you don't realize what the button is doing because you're not too familiar with the equipment yet. So for instance, there's a parameter button on the top of, you know, just right under the screen in the S11, and that parameter will you know, you can the amount of beats you can advance, or the percentage of an effect or something else. If you accidentally hit that, and let's say you want your echo effect to be 1 beat, and you accidentally hit that and it's 2 or 3, now your echoes are off. So like learning all those little ins and outs, you know, that kind of thing, it takes some time. And you know, as a DJ, you want to be proficient on the gear that you're playing on. And I don't care what anybody says. You know how you say you don't blame the gear? Well, sometimes when you don't know the gear and you're not familiar with the gear, it really is the gear. Because there have been times where I've performed perfectly on one gear and go to another gear and I can't perform it. Like, for instance, my Newmark, I'm pointing down because I don't know why I'm pointing down, because it was under my desk here. But the Newmark Mix Track Platinum, all right, I have that. That has paddles on it, and it has like a few little features. It's I would say it's kind of like an entry level controller, and the reason I have it is for small gigs. It's for little things, but you know, I can't perform as well on that thing. You know, I'm consider myself a good DJ. I can DJ on just about anything. And I can get by on that machine, but you know, you do have to practice on it. You do have to learn. You do have to have muscle memory. I don't know any DJ that has never seen another piece of equipment and just jumped on it and was able to play, you know, 100%. Like, I can get on most equipment and get through and look pretty good, and, you know, figure it out pretty quickly. It doesn't take long, but there is a learning curve. You do have a learning curve, you know, on every new piece of gear that you have. It is what it is. And I don't know, maybe I'm different. Maybe I'm the only one that has that problem sometimes, where I need to get familiar with a piece of gear so I can be confident on it. At least I'm willing to admit that as a DJ. I mean, I am not perfect by any means. And that's why after 40 years, I still practice, because you're always learning and you're always keeping up and you're always trying to do better. So I don't really try to fake that I just know everything all the time. All right. And what are my other thoughts here? Let's see. What am I looking at? Okay. So my final thoughts. This is the part of the show where I give you my final thoughts on everything. So far, it's too early to tell how I'm gonna like the S11. It's too early because I just got it, and I'm comparing it to my last girlfriend. You know, my last girlfriend did all the things I liked, except for the one thing. And now this new girlfriend is it's got a bunch of bells and whistles, but I haven't tried everything, and I'm not comfortable with it yet. So, you know, it remains to be seen. You know, when I perfect some of my routines on the S11 and I'm fluid with it, it'll feel much better. I think it'll be great. And, you know, the hope is I see all the DJs that use the S11, and they perform fantastically, man. They really do well. You know, you watch Nick Spinelli in weddings, guy's killing it. You watch DJ Jazzy Jeff performing live, he's killing it on a S11. And, you know, you watch a lot of the TikTok DJs, they're all killing it on an S11. They don't sound like they're missing anything. They don't sound like they're missing features. They don't. They look good doing what they're doing. So the S11 definitely is worth the purchase for me, and I will use it, and it will give me an excuse to now bring out my turntables at a wedding instead of the NS7 III, because now I won't have the excuse of, oh, it's too many accessories. So, but you know, at the same time, I love my old gear. I really do. I stand by my statement from the NS7 III, is that sometimes the old gear just does everything you need it to do. You know, if we're barring setting things up, barring all the extra accessories, barring all of those things, and besides the possibility of Serato not supporting certain of my devices, there really isn't anything that my old turntable rig can't do that the S11 can do. Because I used it, and I don't know, maybe that's just because I've spent 15 years on the Mixars Duo. Now, let me explain about the Mixars Duo. So when I bought the Mixars Duo 15 plus years ago, whenever it was that I bought it, I was at a crossroads because, so remember, I've talked about moving from CDs to SL1, Scratch Live, then going to controllers, and always wanting to go back to turntables. It's been like a journey. Like, everything has been just constantly changing, and you know, going to the SL1 was great, but it was still a lot of gear to carry around because I had compacted and consolidated everything on you know, the CD rig, and so bringing out the turntables was like cumbersome and all that stuff. Going to controllers was easier because it was all compact. And now going back to another turntable rig setup, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't carrying a bunch of stuff again. So now this makes it easier for me to do, and I will enjoy it. I kind of lost my point midstream, if I'm being honest. I didn't even, you know, I kind of lost my train of thought as I was talking. But I do like my old rig. It was really hard to go against my grain and buy something new. As a result of buying the S11, I most likely will not buy a new controller, at least not for now, until I get super seriously comfortable on the new battle layout, or on the new DJ battle mixer layout. But I like it. I like it. I'm a gear whore. I like owning gear. So, you know, it is what it is. I know there was a point that I had to make. And I'm so when I record these videos, I will often record them, kind of edit them, and then put them up, right? And I always remember something afterwards, something I wanted to say, some important point I wanted to make. But I will sum up everything with this. If you are a DJ, and I'm going to repeat this one more time. If you're a DJ and you have old gear, the old gear is fine. The old gear works great. If it's paid for, great. If you can do all kinds of stuff on it, great. The old gear is fine. I'll be happy with the S11. I'm not complaining. I know this is first world problems, first world thoughts and ideas, and part of it is I'm this like DJ veteran of 40 years, so I'm part that old guy that's like the new stuff is not as good as the old stuff, you know. It's so I'm part that. I am part that a little bit because, you know, once I'm used to something, I'm used to it and I like it. But is the S11 good? Yeah, it's good. It's good, and it'll be really good. It'll be a lot better, and when I'm more comfortable on it, you know, it'll feel a lot better. But, you know, I just wanted to talk to you all and let you know that I did it. I bought the S11, and I hope that if you watch this video and you were feeling a little bit like you wanted to buy a new piece of equipment again, that maybe you look at your old equipment and you realize it's good enough. It does what you need it to do. And but, you know, I don't even know. I just want to know in the comments what you guys think. If you guys want to like, comment, subscribe. Did I ramble on too much? Was the video worth talking about? I kind of felt like it was sort of an addendum to my NS7 III video. But in any case, I want to thank you guys for joining me here on this rambling session of the DJ bit. I will try to continue being more consistent. Once again, I have all this new stuff and new layout and new camera and all that. So, you know, once I get used to it, my videos will also seem smoother. See, it's all about getting used to stuff. It's about getting used to your gear. And once you have something, it's like an old shoe. It feels good. You know, this video is so representative of that. Thank you guys very much for joining me. I hope you have a great week. Once again, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much. And I'll see you on the next one, guys.